Hello and welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Bermuda Championship DFS Tactics show. We've got a lot to cover, but the first thing I want to remind you all of is that you have one less hour to get your lineups in tomorrow morning. Bermuda is 1 hour ahead of the Eastern time zone, so it is roughly a little after 10 there at Bermuda. So a quick reminder that you have one less hour to get your lineups in if you plan on filling out your lineups in the morning. So be mindful of that. But we have a lot to cover. We have a lot of lineups to try to generate. We got to figure out the players that we want to pivot to and fade. Let's look at some rankings. And most importantly, we got to figure out what the hell this weather is going to do. So let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much better gambler and a much smarter DFS player. Go check them out. It's well worth your investment. In the description to the video, there are links to all of my social media, Twitter and Instagram. This is where I place my research throughout the week, which I did earlier in the week on Monday. And my betting card will be out later on this evening after the show. So if you want to see the summary of the research that I do, and or the betting cards for each week, give me a follow at the links to those links in the description. I will also be live on Twitch tomorrow morning, which that link is in the description. I will be prepping my Thursday PM showdown lineups and such, getting a feel for how the Thursday morning wave is playing, see if we can't get a leg up on the Thursday PM showdown slate. So if you are interested in showdown content, give me a follow at the link to Twitch in the description. I will be live tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And then finally, the link to my Discord server is in the description as well, if that is a preferred method of yours to get a hold of me. But a lot of ways to reach out to me if you have any last minute questions for me or want to see more of the research or other content that I create. And then finally, we're live. Chat is open. Wanting to hear from you all. What players did we settle on this week to use or to avoid? How much do we think the wind is going to play a factor? All of that good stuff. So let's not waste any more time. Let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2023 Bermuda. And we're going to start over at Windfinder, and hopefully my camera is going to settle. So apologies if you were here a couple of minutes ago. The camera decided to spaz out. But we start with Windfinder. And I'm going to go ahead and reload this for you all so you can see the most up to the second forecast for this week and weekend. And we know we can depend on this completely. It won't change at all. But as of now, Thursday looks to be great for golf. Very little in terms of rain and no wind, which means that scores should be very, very low. Very low. I do not see a particular split favor. Now, yes, the PM wave is getting a little bit less wind, but the course is going to be soft if this rain does hold up in the morning, which softer conditions mean guys can generally be more aggressive, thus lower scores. So I don't really see much of an advantage either way, but the scores should be very, very low if this forecast does indeed hold up. And then Friday, the wind picks up. There looks to be a lot of rain, perhaps a storm rolling through the area. But again, no real favor in terms of AM or PM. Just consistent wind. Not really too much variance in terms of gusts either. So I do not see an AM-PM split for either day. So the players that you think are going to be the best this weekend, and just hope that the rain doesn't cause havoc and move times around is the best advice that I can give you, because Friday looks to be a toss-up. But anyway, so there's a look at Windfinder. Let's move on over to Fantasy National very quickly. You can see that I've already preset this to the beginning of the calendar year, and I have the moderate and windy filters up. Saturday looks to be very, very windy, very gusty, very difficult. So, in your rankings, in your, I can't say research now, but in your lineups, give these players a slight boost in consideration. Scott Piercy, Brandon Wu, Cameron Percy, Alex Smalley, Adam Long, Thomas Detry, Patrick Rogers, Ryan Armour, Justin Lauer, Kevin Yu, and Ben Griffin. These players have played very well in the wind since the beginning of 2022. Conversely, downgrade these players in the wind for this weekend. David Hearn, Harry Higgs, Jonas Blixt, Nick Watney, Ben Crane, Dylan Wu, Wesley Bryan, Max McGreevy, Tyson Alexander, Fabian Gomez, and Brent Grant, and so on down. These players have not played well in the wind in 2022, and Friday and Saturday do look to be pretty windy, especially Saturday. Gusts into the upper 20s and so on, so it should be a factor, but the main thing that we're focused on is trying to get 6-6 through, and I do not see an AM-PM split favor anything to that effect. So if you are confident in a player, then give these players a boost, considering Saturday is supposed to be pretty darn hectic. And that's in terms of strokes gained total. I might refer back to this a little bit throughout the evening, but I wanted to make sure I brought in the strokes gained total and have you all view that. So now let's move on over to the mixed condition model that I have made for the full field this week, and then we'll run into Microsoft Excel, look quickly at the rookie rankings, and then the full field. So mixed condition model for the entirety of the Bermuda field. I went 10% in strokes gained approach. We do not have any shot link data, so this is an obvious admittance on my end to my preference of strokes gained approach. I just prefer this statistic. I think it's the best in terms of long-term success. If players have had good strokes gained approach numbers, they're generally going to play well more often in the future. So 10% there. 5% in total strokes gained putting on Velcro and average speed Bermuda greens. If I had to guess, these would be Velcro, but I can't guarantee it since 2021's Bermuda, the year that Brian Gay won, those greens were average speed. So we've had 2 years of Velcro, 1 year of average. I can't guarantee that it would be Velcro, so I listed Velcro and average. But it's important to note that this set of data goes back all the way to the beginning of January of 2021. I know throughout the week we looked basically through September 2021 forward. I went ahead and grabbed all of 2021 just to make sure we have a whole lot of data, and it still is going to be significant enough. It's a lot of the same tournaments that were being factored in going back to just September. The Sony, the Valero, the American Express, these tournaments. So I just grabbed their 2021 year as well. So that should be a much more stable metric. But I only have 5% in it. Again, with no shot link data, it's hard to say how much putting is a big factor here. We talked throughout the week whether we're going to look at birdies or bogeys. I ended up looking at bogeys avoided. and I have added the less than 7,200 yard or short course metric. And you will see I've done that a few different times, and that's why I'm going to keep the main page up in case anyone really wants to see driving distance or bogeys or birdies throughout the night, maybe greens in wind. But I settled on short course. We know for a fact this course is going to be short. So 10% in bogeys avoided on short courses, 5% driving distance on short courses. And again, this is kind of like when I was making the mixed condition model for Congaree. Like Terrell Hatton was the best example. That Terrell Hatton was very mediocre in terms of driving distance total, but when the course got long, he actually rose in driving distance. So I wanted to see who hits their driving distance, whether that's 5 woods, 3 woods, irons, whatever, off the tee, who has the most distance on short courses, because some players play it completely different. So 5% there, 15% in greens on short courses, 15% in procs 100 to 125. And this is where it kind of got a little bit difficult for me, as I wanted to focus on greens. I think they're going to be the most important factor. If there's another metric that's going to be a big deal, it's the 100 125 procs, but we don't have shot length data, so we can't confirm it. This is a pretty big I can't say hunch, because we went through this Saturday night on Pro Visualizer that a majority of the approach shots are going to come from this range. So I can't call it a hunch, but it's my lean for this week. 5% in total par threes, 5% in 225 plus par threes. You'll notice that I don't have the 200 to 225 split out. It's because once I really dug into it Tuesday, and I did this on stream for Twitch, the 200 to 225 in relation to other parts of the golf course wasn't that important. It was important versus other courses on the tour, or the average full field course. But in relation to other metrics here at Port Royal, it just wasn't. So I decided just to keep the 225 plus and put those each at 5%. I have 15% in par 4s 350 to 400, 10% in par 4s 400 to 450. I mentioned Monday that par 4s are going to be extremely important. Again, like greens, like proximity, going to be one of the biggest factors this week of who wins. And there's only one par 4 that doesn't fall into this one of these two ranges. It measures 458 or so on the scorecard, so you can easily see it coming down into here. So instead of just doing par 4 performance and splitting it out, I just really emphasized the two lengths of par 4s here and upped the percentages. And then I only have 5% left in par 5s 500 to 550. This might be a bit slight, so if par 5s end up being a bit more important, I'll be a little weak in that regard. But I just feel confident that greens are going to be a factor, this proximity range is going to be a factor, and then the par 4s. So what am I going to be soft to or weak to? Anything around the green related, sand saves, scrambling, if those are going to be big factors this week, I'm going to be a cold to those. If putting ends up being more important, this is just a guess on my end. So putting is very important. I'm going to be a little more cold to that. But really, like I said, I'm pretty darn confident in the greens, really darn confident in the procs and the par 4s. So with that, that is the mixed condition model for this week, the metrics and the filters and the percentages why. So first, let me go over to the rookie rankings, and you will notice that some of these metrics are different. Again, the Korn Ferry Tour does not collect It doesn't have shot link, so we can't get a lot of the data like proximity, like putting, off the tee approach, and it doesn't have any wind data either. So I was planning on doing a whole lot of short course filters for these metrics. The issue was the Korn Ferry Tour in 2022 only played one course that was less than 7,200 yards. So I did not want to put extra emphasis just on one tournament from the Korn Ferry Tour. So I don't have any short course filters for your Korn Ferry Tour grads this week. It is all just throughout the entirety of 2022, except for strokes gained total on Bermuda, which is the best way we can try to decipher who might be good at Bermuda putting. So anyway, 20% in the 350 to 400 par 4s, 15% more in the 400 to 450 par 4s, so 35% of the rookie mixed condition model went into these short par 4s. Greens, 15% strokes gained total on Bermuda. I did up the par 5s on the rookie rankings because I don't have any proximity. I can't do putting on Bermuda, so I did add 5% here, made it 10% total, 10% bogeys avoided, and with some other leftover percentages, I did add opportunities gained, and then I have driving distance in the 2 par 3s, or the par 3 lengths from the full field mixed condition model. So you will see number 1 in my rookie rankings, he's back, and I have to sigh, but it's Augusto Nunez. So my top 10 in terms of rookie rankings for the Bermuda Championship this week: Augusto Nunez, Marty Doe, Nicholas Echeverria, John Vanderlaan, I believe is how that is pronounced, Sam Stevens, Michael Kim, Harry Hall, Nicholas Lindheim, Vincent Norman, and Ben Griffin. And again, it's going to say more than 10, like Ben Griffin's 13th. This is because players like Mark Hubbard had a few rounds on the Korn Ferry Tour last year, all of that kind of stuff. So anyone that didn't have at least 24 rounds, I believe, on the Korn Ferry Tour, I took off. But there's my top 10 in terms of rookie rankings. Now, Augusto Nunez. The numbers say he should be very good again. He has let me down 3 times. If you want to believe in the analytics, Augusto Nunez should be good. I'm telling you, I'm going to be gun shy because I've been burned on him 3 tournaments already in the fall. But the numbers say he should be good. He's very good at the short par 4s. He was good on Bermuda, hits a lot of greens, avoids bogeys, and should play well here at Bermuda. I am very, very high this week on Harry Hall. Harry Hall is number 1 on these extremely short par 4s, number 6 from 400 to 450. He was okay at Bermuda. He avoids bogeys. There's a lot to like here with Harry Hall. So I am extremely high on him in terms of a rookie. Ben Griffin, I like a lot. Again, he's very good at the very short par 4s. Putt well, or I can't say putt well. He played well on Bermuda. The par 3s were good, if these end up being more of a factor. He gave himself plenty of opportunities, etc., etc. So those are the 3 that I'm really kind of highest on. Echeverria is also interesting in the sense that he plays these short par 4s really darn well. He played Bermuda exceptionally well on the Korn Ferry Tour. He avoids bogeys. I'm not as high on Echeverria, but I think he is interesting, especially if you're looking to try to gain some value in a Stars and Scrubs build and wanting some uniqueness. I don't know anything about John Vanderlaan. I don't. This is just being transparent. I don't know anything. So if you know something, fire him up. He's number 1 in avoiding bogeys on the Korn Ferry Tour in 2022. Gave himself a lot of opportunities. I'm a little gun shy because it says he did not play the short par 4s very well. Someone else to perhaps take a look at, Ben Taylor. So anyone who played both lengths of these par 4s, I would be very, very high on. Ben Taylor, I'm a little lower on SH Kim, and I'll explain why later. Lindheim, okay. He's got a lot of reasons to be worried, particularly he's not good at par 3s or par 5s. It was just the short par 4s that he did very well on the Korn Ferry Tour. Talked about Harry Hall and how high I am on him. Michael Kim always just seems to disappoint. He's not played well yet this fall. Sam Stevens, he's probably getting bumped from the greens, but you can see his short par 4 performance wasn't the best either. So, again, analytically, it says Augusto Nunez should be pretty good. I'm quite gun shy. I've been burned on him already a few times this fall. Marty Doe seems like he'd be a fine play at 7,600. I am just higher on Harry Hall at the same price. Echeverria, very, very interesting this week in a Stars and Scrubs build, and I really like Ben Griffin this week. So there's a look at the rookie ranks for the Bermuda Championship. I'll leave that up just in case, but let's move on over to the full, well, I was going to say the full field. Let's look at the rookie ranks again, dumbass. Let's move to the full field rankings. And this is, again, back to the usual. Course value is just at Port Royal. There's no comparison course or similar course metrics here. I only did that for Congaree since it was very, very lightly seen, as in only seen once on the PGA Tour last week. But this is back to just Port Royal or that course prior performance. FNGC rank obvious, percent owned, etc., etc. Now, I am quite lower on a couple of players due to travel, and that has not been taken into consideration in these rankings. I'll explain who those are here in a bit, but all things considered, between the Fantasy National Analytics, the previous course performance, and the projected percent owned per Fantasy National, my rankings go as such. I have Russell Knox, number 1. Grayson Sigg, Saying You'll Know, 3rd. Chesson Hadley, Denny McCarthy, Camilo Villegas, Mark Hubbard, Cameron Percy, Scott Brown, and Will Gordon are my top 10. So let's talk about probably the elephant in these rankings. Saying You'll Know, he does not have a bad statistic. Nothing red at all in them. He's top 15 in the 4 biggest percentages that I've put here. Number 1 in proximity, tied with Russell Knox. Top 15 in greens. Top 5 on these extremely short par 4s. And you go across, his worst statistic is these 400 450 par 4s and these par 5s. Sorry, that's getting cut off. I need one more. There we go. And these par 5s. Everything else is top 30 in terms of placement in this field. I like Saying You'll Know quite a bit. I've been going down to him often to bottom out my teams. Russell Knox, my number 1 player. He is the number 2 strokes gained total player in the 3 years that the Bermuda Championship has been played. He is finished no worse than, I believe, tied for 15th. Number 1 in both greens and prox 100 to 125. Top 10 in strokes gained approach. There's a lot to like here. Now, the issue has been putting. Perhaps he just doesn't like slow and average speed Bermuda greens. He's not the longest off the tee on short courses, but it's not mandatory here. That's why I only have 5%. But he's not the longest. He plays par 3s okay. I love Russell Knox a lot this week. I'm surprised he's only sitting at 14, a little over 14.5. I figured he'd be 17 to 20%. I still think he will be 17 to 20% come tomorrow. But Russell Knox, Grayson Sigg, like Grayson Sigg a lot, Chesson Hadley. McCarthy I'm a little lower on. Greens, all of that stuff. He's also got some travel baggage, for lack of better terms. Him and a couple other players here are who I want to highlight. So first I'll I'll talk about McCarthy, but it applies to 3 players in particular: Denny McCarthy, Alex Smalley, and S.H. Kim. These 3 players here, and Kim's a little bit further down. These 3 players have had a lot of travel, going from the Shriners, then to the Zozo, then back to the CJ Cup, and now to Bermuda. Alex Smalley has played in every single one of those tournaments, so he has traveled a bajillion miles in the past month. Slight exaggeration, it might be a half a gazillion, but whatever. He's traveled a lot. I don't want any part of Alex Smalley, even though the metrics love him. Travel's a non-zero factor. Eventually, he's going to get tired. He's going to get worn out. When you fly from Vegas to the Zozo, he goes from Vegas to the Zozo in Japan, now back to the States in South Carolina last week for the CJ Cup, and now to Bermuda. It's a lot of travel. If you're not afraid of that, if you are not going to factor in any travel at all, then Alex Smalley's probably going to be a good play. He hits greens in regulation in bunches. He plays short par 4s immaculately. He avoids bogeys. There's a lot to like here. I'm avoiding Alex Smalley because of the travel. So if he plays well, that's a player I'm going to lose to. Denny McCarthy, kind of the same. He did not play in the... Sorry, I got the wrong note here. There it is. Apologies. So McCarthy did not play in Vegas, but he was at the Zozo and then traveled to the CJ Cup and now to Bermuda. That's a lot of travel. S.H. Kim has some travel on him as well. So those are 3 players that I am pretty out on. I might throw McCarthy in a lineup just because he's 5th in my rankings total. He's played this event well, etc., etc. But I'm quite lower on these guys because of all the travel. Villegas, fine. Very, very good at these very short par 4s. He takes advantage of very short par 4s. A lot of that probably being in the fact that he's very good with his 100 to 125 procs. So don't sleep on Camilo Villegas. Mark Hubbard, one of the tournament favorites. I like Cameron Percy a lot at 7,900, and so on down. So let's go ahead and go through the price board here and get a feel for what we are thinking. So I want column E. And by all means, if you have a question on a player or want to think about some lineup opportunities, jump in chat. Would love to hear from you. So we have 6 players in the 10Ks this week. Thomas Detry, Denny McCarthy, Adrian Meronk, Seamus Power, Aaron Rai, and Mark Hubbard. So Adrian Meronk has not played much on the PGA Tour. He's another player I'm going to lose to because I just don't know much about him. The time he did play, it was a bigger tournament. He played okay. I just don't know enough about him, so if Meronk plays well, I'll lose. I talked about McCarthy. Detry, probably one of the 2 or 3 most projected owned players, or the players that are going to be used the most. I like him a lot. He's 14th, but I don't have to use him. I'm going to a little bit so that I have my coverage. You see number 1 in terms of performance on 400 to 450 par 4s. The par 3 performance, at least 225 plus, is very good. Very good at the length of the par 5s here. Sorry, that's getting cut off. He's 9th. But a lot to like here with Thomas Detry. Just understand he is very, very popular, even as the highest priced player. Seamus Power, I'm out. As much as he popped on all of the filters that we looked at Monday night, short, windy, he's struggled. Look at his irons. He has struggled lately. The short par 4s, not very good. Now he is number 1 in avoiding bogeys on short courses. He hits a lot of greens when it's short. So if you want to really, really, really focus and lean into the short course, metrics and filters, Seamus Power would be a good play. I'm just off of him. I'm off of Seamus Power. I'm really high on players lower. Aaron Ryan, fine. Mark Hubbard, fine, but popular. So really, in the 10Ks, there's not much I'm doing here. That's foreshadowing the types of lineups I am building. However, if you are in the 10Ks, my rankings would go as such. Probably Mark Hubbard number one because of the price ranking. He's not as owned as, say, Thomas Detry. I'll go Hubbard number one. Aaron Rye, no, probably Thomas Detry number two. I'll go Hubbard, Detry, Rye, McCarthy, and then 5A and 5B are Meronk and Power. I'm not using any of them. I'm not considering using any of them for different reasons. Meronk, I just don't know enough about. But Seamus Power is a gut feeling. Like, again, the irons have just been bad. He's bad from 400 to 450 par fours. He's really bad from 350 to 400 par fours. He's just bad at short par fours. Yeah, I don't like what I've seen from Seamus Power lately. So I'm off on him. Moving down into the nines, you've got Justin Lauer, Nick Hardy, Patrick Rogers, S.H. Kim, Alex Smalley, Grayson Sigg, Stephen Yeager, Russell Knox, Robbie Shelton, and Robbie Shelton. I thought there was a 9,000. There is not. Surprising to see Nick Hardy so far down, but the metrics that I put the most weight in, he's been poor. Very poor from 100 to 125. Poor or, slightly below field average in terms of hitting greens. Poor on very short par fours. So out on Hardy, out on S.H. Kim, and Alex Smalley for the reasons I mentioned earlier. It's all about the travel, especially Alex Smalley. If he plays well, I'm going to lose. No thanks on Stephen Yeager, especially at the percentage, a lot for the same reason of Nick Hardy. The things that I think are going to play the most important here just hasn't been good. Russell Knox, my number one player, one of the more probably popular players. I'll eat the chalk this week. I think Russell Knox is going to be very good. Take a look at Grayson Sigg this week. He was a T22 last year and his one event. He is top 30 in majority of these things. 41st in approach, but, greens, good. He is not elite, but good. Proximity, good. The very short par fours, he's good. He's 8th in avoiding bogeys on short courses. There's a lot to like here with Grayson Sigg. Really, the only poor stat he has, and it's not terrible, is driving distance, which isn't necessary here. So I like Grayson Sigg a lot, especially at 10% or projected 10% owned. Robbie Shelton's fine. It's kind of lukewarm. So for me, as much as Grayson Sigg is less owned, I am just extremely confident that Russell Knox is going to play well. So I'm going to have Russell Knox number one in the 9Ks, and then Grayson Sigg. Patrick Rogers is fine. He has not played this event well, and that worries me a little bit because everything lines up that says Patrick Rogers should be very, very good here. And he was very, very good here last year, but that's the only year that he's performed well here. And he's played here all 3 years. So I'll use Patrick Rogers. The numbers say he should be really darn good. Number 5 in hitting greens. Number 4 is getting a little cut off over here. Number 4 in driving distance on short courses. So he thrives on short courses. The proximity is bad, and the 225 plus par 3s are bad. So you got a little bit of worry there. Justin Lauer is so popular, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to justify using him when I'm so high on Grayson Sigg, on Russell Knox. Like I'm going to eat the Russell Knox chalk more than I'm willing to eat the Justin Lauer chalk. Moving into the 8Ks, we have Adam Long, Nick Taylor, Adam Schenk, Will Gordon, Ben On, Brandon Wu, Austin Eckroat, Callum Tarrant, Michael Gligic, and Eric Van Rooyen. Eckroat's getting quite a bit of love, and I don't see it. Again, kind of like Nick Hardy, kind of like Stephen Yeager above. Like, he's just not good at the metrics that I'm valuing, though he has played this event well. He was, just like Grayson Sigg last year, a T22. I am thrilled to death. Michael Gleekick is nowhere near my top 10, so that saves me a whole lot of embarrassment, or at least in that regard. No thanks on EVR. Callum Tarrant is one of the he's one of the 3 most popular plays this week for good reason. I've got an outright wager on him. Love Callum Tarrant this week. Third in strokes gained approach. Very, very good at the short par 4s. Extremely short par 4s. This one's getting a tad bit cut off. This is 16th. He's 14th here. Loves short par 4s. He's fine in greens. He's fine on proximity. A lot to like here with Callum Tarrant. Brandon Wu is interesting. He put the daylights out. Granted, it was on Paspalum, but on a similar style of feel of a course in Mexico early in the summer. So these coastal courses, he seems to play fairly well, even though this is Bermuda and not Paspalum. Brandon Wu is quite interesting. I'm going to use some Brandon Wu. I really like Will Gordon a lot this week. Love Will Gordon this week. So seeing him at 10% kind of stinks, but I'm going to be using some Will Gordon. Adam Long, fine, just very popular, but he should play well again. Adam Schenk, he hasn't traveled as much as the other 3 that I highlighted, but he has traveled quite a bit, so I'm a little more wary on Adam Schenk. Moving down into the 7s, in the upper 7s, let's get a feel here for some players like Cameron Percy. Love Cameron Percy, and a lot of the analytics community and Fantasy National is digging Cameron Percy. A lot to like here. Greens, the irons have been good. And just like Brandon Wu, not Brandon Wu, Callum Tarrant devours short par 4s, devours them. And he's decent enough in putting on Velcro and average Bermuda. So take a long look at Cameron Percy. Doug Gim, interesting. Like, he's my all or nothing play. I have a win ticket on him, so I don't have to use him in DFS, but I've got a sneaky suspicion that Doug Gim will do well this week. Sam Ryder getting a whole lot of love. Okay, I guess. I mean, again, the proximity's good. Irons have been good. He has not putt Bermuda well. He's more of a bent grass putter. The par 3s have been bad. I'm seeing Sam Ryder at 15.5% is pretty close to a fade for me. Hadley, number 4 in my rankings. I'll eat the chalk there. Again, I talked about Harry Hall. I have an outright ticket on him, so I can limit my exposure to him in DFS. But I'm very, very, very high on Harry Hall this week. So I highly suggest you use some Harry Hall. Going into the low 7s, Smotherman is fine. I like Austin Smotherman. Ryan Armour is somebody to take a look at. He generally plays these shorter courses well, these coastal courses well. Generally, just best in the fall. So take a look at Ryan Armour. I don't mind it. Ben Taylor is very interesting, even though he's rated so low in Fantasy National. It's because of the par 4s, especially these par 4s, but you look at the 400 to 450 par 4s, he's been good. He's been very good at those. So I kind of like Ben Taylor, or at least taking a flyer on Ben Taylor this week. Or at least thinking about it. I mean, he's at 7,400, so he doesn't fit into every single lineup, but take a look at Ben Taylor. Let's see, elsewhere, I love Ben Griffin. Number 2, Fantasy National had him number 2. And you can kind of see why. Limited amount of rounds, I understand, but top 40 in greens and then top 15 in the next 5 categories. Procs, 350 to 400 par 4s. Number 2 in irons in his short time on PGA Tour courses. Number 5 in bogeys avoided on short courses. He's been number 2 on 400 to 450 par 4s. There's a lot to like here with Ben Griffin. Matthias Schmidt, somebody else that I've kind of targeted a couple times in the fall. Surprising to only see him at 2.5%. I like Matthias Schmidt. At 2.5%, I really like Matthias Schmidt. So you can kind of see where I am gravitating in the price board. I was nowhere in the 10Ks. I've liked a lot of the 9s. I've liked a lot of the 7s. That tells you the kind of lineups I've been building. Let's see. Elsewhere in the low 7s, Ben Martin, also fairly interesting. The proximity good. Irons have been good. Take a look at Ben Martin. P, your boy, Uncle Luke. Anytime, like all last year, Luke Donald was doing very, very well in irons. He's actually not been good with the irons as of late from July forward. But in terms of iron play, especially in the spring and early summer, he was dialed in. He was rising in my total field mixed condition models from his iron play alone. So I think Luke Donald is going to be very, very good value this week. He loves short par 4s. He avoids bogeys when it's short. His proximity from 100 to 125 is spectacular. Love Luke Donald this week. Was popping for a while there. Yeah, he was. He absolutely was. I still think this is going to be a good tournament for him. He has not played this tournament particularly well. In fact, the vision's going to be skewed. I apologize for that, but let's just take a look at wind performance for Luke Donald. 48th, it's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. Short game has always been good. That's getting cut off. So I'll just have to bring it over here. So there's Luke Donald. 48th in total in the wind. There's nothing wrong with that. He's better in the short game. 11th in irons in the wind. There's nothing wrong here with Luke Donald. I really like Luke Donald this week at 7K in the price board. I think he's going to represent a lot of value for you. Schwab, fine. Lebiota, fine. I like Brian Stewart again. He's not a 6K play, so I can't claim the Brian Stewart 6K obvious play. But, other than the extremely short par 4s, he's been fine. Top 25 in irons, top 25 in the 100 to 125 procs, top 30 in greens when it's short. I like Brian Stewart. All right, moving into the 6Ks, there's not a whole lot here. That means I haven't really been building stars and scrubs lineups. But I do want to throw out a couple of names at you. Again, Camilo Villegas, you have to believe that the putter will cooperate to use Camilo Villegas. He's been bad. The par 3s, not great. But what you're getting with Camilo Villegas are these, very, very dominant performances on short par 4s. Dominant performances on short par 4s from a player that is in the 6Ks. And his irons have been 10th in the field since July 1st of the John Deere. Take a strong look at Camilo Villegas. Let's see. Stay away from Chad Ramey. Yes, he won a similar style event last year in the Corrales. The key difference there, Corrales is long. Bermuda is extremely short. Stay away from Chad Ramey. He's actually getting a lot of love. Stay away from Chad Ramey. So if Chad Ramey plays well, I will lose. But I'm advocating that you stay away from Chad Ramey. Again, if you want to believe the metrics, go with Augusto Nunez. It says he should be good. I'm quite gun shy. He has burned me a few times already. But in the 6Ks, if I'm coming down here, it is saying you'll know, which he's getting a little bit of love from the fantasy national analytics community. But we talked about him already. If you want to believe in prior course performance, Brian Gay is a must-use at 6,700. He has just devoured this course. He's a former winner. His worst finish, I believe, is a tied for 12th. If you if you go solely or put a lot of stock into prior course performance, use Brian Gay. Scott Brown has rated out extremely high in my model this week, and you can kind of see why he doesn't have an atrocious statistic. Really, he's not elite, except for par 3 performance. He's second, and I'll scroll over there for you here in a bit. But bogeys avoided on short courses is good to great, but he's been good at everything. Sorry, wrong way. He's been good at everything. So at 6,600. I don't know if I'd have him 9th, but he doesn't have a bad metric. So Scott Brown's somebody to take a look at. Don't mind it. The lowest I have been going, though, is at 64. I mentioned earlier that Echeverria was very interesting in terms of stars and scrubs bottoming out. Now, the numbers here haven't been good. His 2 or 3 tournaments so far in the fall have not been good on the PGA Tour. Again, this is a play on what he did on the Korn Ferry Tour. The short par 4 performance was good. He played very, very well on Bermuda. He avoided bogeys. Echeverria is the hunch. He's the wild card 6K play. He's my Paul Haley from the first week, all that stuff. Just got a feeling on Nicholas Echeverria, he might be good, but I am more so all in on Harry Hall this week for the rookies, and he's in the 7,000s. But there's a look at the 6Ks. Again, not doing a whole lot down here, but I did want to give you some names to consider. Echeverria. Scott Brown's worth a look, worth a consideration. I love saying you'll know this week. Augusto Nunez, if you want to believe the analytics, I've been burned enough that I don't really want to go there, but I probably will. Villegas is worth a long look as well. And Brian Gay, if you believe in prior course performance. So there's a look at my rankings. Let's start making some lineups. We'll first cover tiers contests. For those who play tiers, it is not my specialty, but I don't know why I'm trying to sort this. It's already sorted in salary. Okay, so for players who play tiers, in tier 1 you have Thomas Detry, Denny McCarthy, and Adrian Meronk. If you know something about Adrian Meronk using, I don't, so I'm just going to use Thomas Detry. Tier 2, Seamus Power, Aaron Wright, Mark Hubbard, Justin Lauer, Patrick Rogers. I'm going to use Patrick Rogers. He just popped on a whole lot of filters. It's probably going to be pretty chalky. Mark Hubbard's a fine play as well. Aaron Wright would probably be the contrarian play. Tier 3, Nick Hardy, S.H. Kim, Alex Smalley, Grayson Sigg, and Russell Knox. This kills me because I want to use both of these two here. I'm going to use Grayson Sigg thinking I'll be more unique. Russell Knox is probably the better play, but because I think I am chalky in Thomas Detry, thinking I am chalky with Patrick Rogers, I will go Grayson Sigg, but it is, for me, quite clearly between these two, Grayson Sigg and Russell Knox. Tier 4, Stephen Yeager, Robbie Shelton, Adam Long, Nick Taylor, Adam Shank, Will Gordon, and Brandon Wu. I like Will Gordon quite a bit in Tier 4. Brandon Wu's fine. It's speculative, but he's fine. Don't want any part of Stephen Yeager. Shelton, just kind of lukewarm, and I imagine Long and Shank will be very, very chalky. So give me Will Gordon in Tier 4. Tier 5, we have been on Austin Eckroat, Callum Tarrant, Michael Gligic, Eric Van Rooyen, Cameron Percy, and Doug Gim. This one's very difficult because everything tells me I should just take the best play in Callum Tarrant, but he's projected to be the most owned in that tier. So I really kind of want to go Cameron Percy here. It depends on how chalky you think you have been up until this point. If you feel like you can take some chalk, Callum Tarrant is probably the best play in the tier by a pretty good margin. I like Cameron Percy quite a bit in Tier 5, so I'm going to take Cameron Percy and hope that I'm pretty darn unique. Finally, Tier 6, we have Sam Stevens, MJ Defoe, Austin Cook, Luke Donald, Augusto Nunez, and Sean O'Haire. I believe that's it. Well, if you're my longtime viewer, P, you're taking Luke Donald. And there's enough reason to use them. Absolutely. The irons aren't as bad as what they've been in the past 3.5 months or so. He devours short par fours. There's enough there for Luke Donald. Ben Martin, or no, he's not there. It's Austin Cook, so forget that check mark. Augusto Nunez, again, according to the metrics, should be fine. Actually, I think it might be Luke Donald. Might be Luke Donald. So, Nunez by the metrics, I've just been burned on him. Sean O'Haire, kind of interesting. He has played this event very well as well. So yeah, Luke Donald, O'Haire's interesting. I'm off of Defoe. I'm off of Austin Cook. No thanks on Sam Stevens. So yeah, Luke Donald or Sean O'Haire for me. If you're not scared about me being wrong on Augusto Nunez so far this fall, then take Nunez. There's a look at tiers contest. Let's start building some classic lineups and combating these expected chalky lineups. So, as I mentioned, feel free to jump in chat if you want to build around an idea, a strategy, a player or two. But if we're going to be building these very chalky lineups that your fellow contestants are making, well, the number one most projected owned player, I believe, is Thomas Detry. It's close. Thomas Detry, and then at in the 9Ks, your fellow contestants have been going somewhere around Russell Knox, maybe Patrick Rogers. I hate to use it. Well, let's use Stefan Jaeger, because I'm not going to use Stefan Jaeger at all, and he's around that same 14.5 to 15% projected own. Stefan Jaeger, and then Callum Tarrant in the low 8s. And then your fellow contestants have been bottoming out. If they're comfortable coming into the 6Ks, they've been coming to someone like Chad Ramey at 7%. Noah's at 6.5%. I'm probably going to bottom them out at Kramer Hickok just to get a little bit extra percentage at 7,000 even. So, but you know, your fellow contestants are seemingly pretty comfortable coming into the 6Ks, or at least the high 6Ks. That leaves them 7,500 per. You know, in the upper 7s, you know, 79s and 8s, you've got Percy, Sam Ryder getting a whole lot of love, which is a fade for me, especially at that projected ownership, 15.5%. No thanks. This leaves them 7,300. At 73, not a whole lot, but Ben Griffin at 72 is at 17.1% as well. So there's a 15% projected match on your or with your fellow contestants in these big GPPs. Pretty darn chalky. Again, you know, kind of substitute around this player who you think might be popular. I just tried to go with the highest percentage. But you know, maybe it's not Detry. They could absolutely move around here. If it's not Detry, maybe they move down to say a Mark Hubbard. Move some of this money around Mark Hubbard to you know, maybe they go back to back. Mark Hubbard, Justin Lauer. I'll use Chad Ramey here. Let's see. In the upper 8s, maybe an Adam Schenk. Maybe they go somewhere a little bit more Starsy Scrubsy. 72 again would have been Ben Griffin. I don't want to repeat names, but it is what it is. He's just getting all the love down there. So, you know, at 72, Ben Griffin. 73, Kevin Yu. A Scott Piercy getting a little bit of love there. You know, there's a 13%er that's a bit more stars and scrubs, I would say. But if your fellow contestants are going balanced, and this is the kind of lineup that I've been building, it's really hard for me to not build this chalky team. But let's start them with Patrick Rogers, and then they'll come down to Russell Knox. And I've been using Russell Knox, so we'll have to repeat that name. But they go something to the effect of, you know, say Patrick Rogers, Russell Knox. Maybe they have to come down to Callum Tarrant, and then from there move down into maybe a Cameron Percy. Yeah, Cameron Percy, a Chesson Hadley, and at 74 is Ryan Armour, who's getting a little bit of love. More than likely, this is Ben Griffin. I mean, you can see Ryan Armour is already close to 14%. Ben Griffin puts him at 15%. So there's a balanced look of a lineup. And this is the direction that I've been going. However, I've been trying to squeeze in a little bit more up top. So let me show you what I've been flirting around with here. And I have been going Grayson Sigg to start, and then Russell Knox, and you can absolutely get more unique. I'm just that high on Russell Knox. Again, if you are not concerned about the travel that Alex Smalley has had recently, then Alex Smalley absolutely fits in here. If you want to be ultra unique, go Grayson Sigg, Alex Smalley. I'm just off of Smalley just because of the travel, but Smalley could fit in this style lineup too. But I've been going Sigg, Knox, and then Will Gordon, who I'm very, very high on as well. You know, if you're high on a Nick Taylor, if you're high on a Ben On, you can certainly do that. Or, for example, if you're not afraid of Alex Smalley, maybe you go Alex Smalley, Grayson Sigg, and you can afford to take an Adam Schenk or an Adam Long if you're higher on those two players. But again, what I have been doing, I've been going Grayson Sigg, Russell Knox, down to Will Gordon, and honestly, I've been trying to fit Callum Tarrant in this, knowing that I'm more chalky. I understand that, but I've been trying to fit Callum Tarrant into this. I don't have to use him, but you see, I'm still at 7,300. I don't even have to flirt with coming down into the 6Ks. There are plenty of players at 7K and 71 that I like, or that I'm willing to take a shot on. Ben Martin, willing to take a shot on. Luke Donald at 7,000, I think is just fine. And that gives me 76. That's Chesson Hadley, very, very chalky, but you know, pretty confident he'll play well. This is also Harry Hall, where I'm probably going to limit my use of Harry Hall because I have an outright wager on him. But you know, this is a lineup that I think is going to be very, very unique. I think Russell Knox will be higher owned than 15%. I think he will be in the 17 to 20. Callum Tarrant probably, but again, like, I don't see many people having Luke Donald. I don't see many people having Harry Hall. I'm really hoping he is very unique. Will Gordon, and I don't think Grayson Sigg is going to be at 10%. I think he'll be a little lower. So I really like this style of lineup. Trying to squeeze in a couple of low nines. Maybe if you want to go to like a Justin Lauer or a Patrick Rogers, a couple of nines and then an 8. But the reason why I like going a couple of lower nines, especially this week, is I can fit in Will Gordon and a Callum Tarrant. I can get a couple of 8s in there as well. That's why I like building this style of lineup this week, whether it's an S.H. Kim, Alex Smalley, Grayson Sigg, Russell Knox. Robbie Shelton's fine. It's where you want to take the chalk. If you are going to go stars and scrubs, again, I mentioned there's a little bit of a hunch here with Nicholas Echeverria. Need to figure out Nicolas Echeverria. So I'd already effed up that spelling. Echeverria. Yeah, got it. If you want to go stars and scrubs, the unique play up here is Adrian Meronk, and he's a good player. He's very highly rated in the OWGR. I don't know enough about him to recommend him. Therefore, for me, even though he's so chalky, I would go Thomas Detry. And if you're going to go stars and scrubs, you might as well just do like Thomas Detry, Mark Hubbard, Thomas Detry, Aaron Rye, Power. Like, I'm not on Seamus Power, but maybe you do not agree with my sentiment that he's not going to play well this week. You can go McCarthy, Hubbard, anywhere along those lines. So you go Detry, Hubbard, and then, again, it kind of depends on if you're willing to come into the low sevens on your stars and scrubs, or if you're trying to be a bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? A bit more balanced in the middle. Like somebody else that I have not used yet, like Matthias Schmidt, I like quite a bit at 72. This gives you the opportunity to perhaps use an Adam Schenk. See what this gives. Another 72. I mean, this will be pretty darn chalky around the other players, but you're getting your uniqueness in Echeverria or whatever 6K play you're wanting to use. Matthias Schmid's going to be seemingly very unique. I don't understand why you're able to get your Thomas Detry or Mark Hubbard, Adam Schenk. Something else I would think about, maybe you don't go all the way down to Echeverria, you go to Vegas and go, I'm going to try to spread it out a little bit more. I'll go Detry, Lauer, which I don't have a problem with. Justin Lauer. He's just so widely owned. You can go like Thomas Detry, Justin Lauer, like a Will Gordon would fit here as well. I've used that name. Maybe a Brandon Wu. Let's see. You've got 7,200 per. Like, this is Luke Donald, Matthias Schmidt. Is there anybody else in these low sevens I mentioned that I don't mind? Like, we're using Vegas. Stewart's okay. Not crazy about it. Schwab, Ben Martin, maybe. Again, quite speculative. And then 72 again is that Ben Griffin. I just think Ben Griffin's the best play in the low sevens, and everybody else does too. There's an 11.5%er. A little bit chalky for my liking, but you do have your uniqueness spread in here. Ben Martin, Vegas. You can move the Brandon Wu money around if you want. But there is a look at some of the lineups that your fellow contestants seem to be making and the ways I am maneuvering around them. Throughout the weekend, please reach out to me, social media, comments on this video. Quite a bit of the community had a successful weekend last weekend, and I'm really hoping that continues. So keep me up to date, keep us up to date. How is your weekend going? How are your lineups? How many 6-6s do you get through? All that stuff. Who are your pivots and fades? If you are interested in showdown content, we'll definitely be live tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, over on Twitch. We'll be live as well on Friday, although I'm not sure how successful I will be on showdown on Friday, because we don't have shot link data, and I do a lot of my analysis around putting and who over and underperforms. But I will still be live and give you what I'm thinking about in terms of showdown lineups Thursday and Friday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern over on Twitch. Thinking stars and scrubs. That's probably going to be pretty unique, P. I'm going to be honest with you. I would think it'd be unique. Depending on what your bottom, who you're bottoming it out at. Like, if you bottom out with Luke Donald, and again, I'm just using Luke Donald because he's your boy. You're going to have to do 2 or maybe even 3 lower 7s. Like Camilo Villegas, it's not an exciting name, but the numbers are there for him. Saying you'll know, who I didn't use at all in any of these lineups, kind of completely forgot about him. He's there. Worth looking in a Stars and Scrubs. If you're going Stars and Scrubs, like, I don't know where you go to get your uniqueness up top. That's where I would be concerned, because I can't recommend Seamus Power. I mean, he's at 10%. If you're a believer in Seamus Power, there's your uniqueness up top. I can't get there. I don't know anything or enough about Adrian Maroc to give a recommendation one way or the other, so I'm staying away from him. If you have a feeling, use him. But Detry's going to be popular. McCarthy's popular. I would have to guess Hubbard's going to end up being more popular than Aaron Rye. So Rye might be... Like, for me, it's hard to believe Aaron Rye's at 15% protected owned. That seems high for Aaron Rye. See what I did there? Like, none of the 9Ks are going to be unique, really, at all. Shelton's right under 10. Nick Hardy's at 9.5. I mean, he's using 2 golf gloves. I mean, how? I don't know. None of the 9Ks are going to be ultra unique. So you're going to have to either, double 10 and probably take a Maronk or Seamus Power. You might be able to get away with a Nick Hardy. But then you're going to have to take a lot of speculation. Yes, he is that guy. He is the iron cover guy. He has iron covers and he wears 2 gloves. That is Aaron Rye. That is him. Pete, it was good to see you back in chat. Glad I got to catch up with you a little bit. Ping you over on social media. Hope all has been well. Haven't seen you in a while. But thanks for tuning in and watching, supporting, jumping in chat, as you always do when you're able to catch the show. Thanks to everyone out there who tunes in and watches and listens, supports the channel, subscribes. Really hope your weekend goes well. Again, please let me know how it goes. Would love to hear the community does well. It's what I love what I do, trying to give you all a statistical analysis and look and leg up on your competition. So thanks for all the support. For all of the wagers you have made this week for the Bermuda Championship, for all of the DFS contests you've entered this week for the Bermuda Championship, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.